All right, folks, today we are going to be learning about percentages and proportional reasoning. So we're going to take what we already know about proportions and apply that to help us figure out how to solve and find the percent for a problem given some information. So let's start with our example here. We are protecting the goal. So the game stats for the goalkeeper for the local soccer team are shown on the right. We want to figure out what percent of the shots taken did the goalkeeper save. So we can do that by using proportional reasoning to solve problems involving proportions. So step number one is we are going to write a proportion. We can see it kind of already set up here for us for how we are going to write our proportion. So we are going to do the number of saves from the goalkeeper over the total number of shots, and that's going to equal x over 100. Now we are getting this 100 right here because we are finding a percent. So percents are always out of 100. So whenever we are setting up a proportion to find a percent, we are always going to have the 100 somewhere on here. So for this one, we are going to take the number of saves, which as we can see is 12. So we're going to start with 12 on top. That is over the total number of shots. That is 20. So we are starting with 12 over 20. Have our equal sign. We are finding the percent. So that's our variable over 100. Now, there are different ways that we can find this answer here. We can either do our cross products method, or this one works out really nice to do that old method we've learned where I figure out what am I multiplying 20 by to get to 100. So if we think about that for a moment, if we take 20 times 5, that is going to equal 100. So let's do the same thing on top here. We want to multiply 12 times 5 to get our variable. So 12 times 5 gives us 60. So x equals 60. Remember, we are trying to figure out the percent here. So on every answer today, we need to have our percent sign. So this means that the percent of the shots taken that were saved, the goalkeeper saved 60% of the shots. All right, moving on to a couple more examples here. Again, for exercises 1 and 2, we're going to write and solve a proportion to calculate the percent, just like we did up above. So for number 1, we have 24 out of 40. So we're going to write our percent proportion. The first number, that 24, is going to go on top of our proportion, and then the 40 goes on the bottom. Okay, so whenever we're writing these, the first number, when it says out of, then the second number, the first number is going to go on top. What it's out of is going to go on the bottom. The total always goes on the bottom. And that's going to be equal to x over 100. Once again, we're getting these numbers. We're getting the 100 because we are trying to calculate a percent here. Okay. Now, unlike that first example with our goalkeeper, there's not a number I can multiply 40 by to get to 100. So on this one, we're going to use cross products to solve. So I'm going to start by taking 40 times x. That gives us 40x. Then we're going to do 24 times 100. So 24 times 100 gives us 2400. Then to solve this, we're going to divide each side by 40. When I do this, we get an answer of 60. Okay, once again, whenever we are solving a problem today, we are calculating the percent. So for every single answer, we do need to add that percent symbol on the end. So answer here for 24 out of 40 as a percent, that is 60%. Okay, now I want you to take a moment and pause the video. Try question number 2 here. Again, it follows a very similar process as number 1. So start by setting up your proportion, solving it to find the percent. So again, take a moment, pause the video, go try number 2 on your own. Once you've found your answer, come back to the video and let's check it to see if it is correct. Welcome back. Now that you've had a chance to try number 2, let's check to make sure that you got it correct. So first, to set up our proportion, you should have started with 66 over 88 equals x over 100. This is another one where we need to use cross products to solve. So when I do this, we're taking 88 times x to get 88x, and then taking 66 times 100 to get 66. Let's fix that here. So again, we get 66 times 100. That gives us 6,600. From here, you should have divided by 88 on both sides. When you divide, you get 75. And remember, we're adding the percent. So final answer for number 2 was 75%. Moving right along to exercises 3 through 5, we're going to use the table to help us answer the question. So the table shows the type of photos Liam has on his phone. So we can see that for selfies, he has 135 selfies. Pet photos, there's 92. Scenery photos has 163. And for food photos, there are 50. So question number 3 says, what percent of the photos are scenery photos? Okay, so if we look at our table, we see that there are 163 photos that are scenery photos. So that's going to start on top of our proportion. Now here's where we run into a little bit of a problem. We need to figure out how many photos there are total on Liam's phone. So we're going to take a moment. We're going to add together all those numbers from the table. So we should be doing 135 plus 92 plus 63 plus 50. When I add those 4 numbers together, we should get a total of 440. So I'm just going to write a little note to myself here at the bottom of our table that the total was 440. So if we go back to our proportion for number 3, underneath 163, we have 440. Then I have my equal sign and x over 100 since we are trying to figure out a percent. To solve this, once again, we are going to use our cross products method. Okay, so when I do that, we're going to do 440 times x gives us 440x. Then we're doing 163 times 100. That gives me 16,300. Then we divide by 440. Now when I divide on this one, we are going to get a repeating decimal. So go ahead and pause the video and try dividing this on your calculator just so you can see what number I'm looking at here. Once you've had a chance to calculate it, come back and let's see how we're going to round it. Okay, now that you've had a chance to type that into your calculator, we get a decimal of 37.045, and then the 45 is repeating after that. So for today, we're just going to round everything to the ones place, to the nearest percent. So here, since it is 37.0, this is just going to be approximately, and I am using my approximate symbol, that squiggly equal sign, to show it's not exactly 37, but it is about 37%. So that is our answer for number 3. Okay, now I want you guys to pause the video and I want you to try question number 4 and number 5 yourself using number 3 as an example. Once you've finished either each one or both of them together, come back to this video and let's check to make sure that you were on the right track and found the correct answer. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to try number 4 and 5. Once again, if you haven't yet, pause the video here and go try 4 and 5 yourself. But let's check to see if you got it correct. So number 4, you should have started with the proportion 50 over 440 because there were 50 food photos out of the total 440. That equals x over 100. When you do your cross products, you should get 440x equals 5,000. Then divide by 440 on both sides. When you do this, you will get a repeating decimal that we need to round. So once again, we are rounding it to the ones place, nearest percent, so this would be about 11% for number 4. For number 5, this one it was asking for the percent of photos that are both selfies and pet photos combined. So we needed to add them together by starting by doing the 135 selfies plus the 92 pet photos. That gives us a total of 227. So that's what we're going to use in our proportion. We do 227 over 440 equals x over 100. Once again, do your cross products. That's going to give you 440x equals 22,700. Divide by 440 on both sides. Then, yet again, we still get a repeating decimal that we need to round. So this one, when we divide it, we get 51.590, and then the 9 and the 0 are repeating. So we're going to round to the ones place. Next door to that one is a 5, which means we're going to round it up to be about 52%. Now that you've seen some examples of how to do today's questions, time to try your homework. Remember that if you get stuck and you're not sure what to do, come back and take a look at the examples on this page or try watching the video again so that way you know what to do for your assignment.